is Noah, and today on Fun with Food, we are going to be doing a steak-off featuring Casey and Papa D. They both are going to be cooking their steaks, and at the end, we are going to be having three special guests to blind judge steaks.
Real quick, I just want to go over some basics on steaks to get rid of anybody who thinks that cooking a steak is difficult. Remember, it's about fun with food. That's why we're here. First is a ribeye steak. As you can see here, different cuts of meat are marbled differently. I want to talk a little bit about marbling. You can see the marbling. The marbling is the fat within the muscle tissue itself. Okay, that's what fat is marbled in the muscle tissue. Now, the grades of steak, when you go to buy something at the supermarket, you'll notice on here, this says USDA choice. If it doesn't say choice, then chances are it's select, which is a grade below, but the reality of the difference is it's a human that picks what is actually choice, what is actually select. And then there's a canning label, which is just made specific beef that is actually grown just for animal food, cat food, dog food, that just goes into a can that is not for human consumption. But these steaks are definitely supermarket. They are two different cuts coming from the midsection of the animal. The ribeye obviously is around the rib section. The New York strip is at the end of that. So these two different steaks are, the textural is completely different. The New York is going to have more of a chew, to where the ribeye is going to be more tender due to the fact that it's laden with more fat, as you can see. Those are the differences. We can get into a lot more. You can go into the sirloin steak. The sirloin comes from another part of the animal, which has less fat in it most often. And then, of course, the upper part of the higher quality is called prime, which is hard to get these days. And when you see anything that says prime beef, you're paying a great deal more for it. And that is, the difference is the marbling is much better. The age of the animal, the way the animal was raised, the feed, has everything to do with the flavor. So upon that, we're going to get right into it. And Case is going to start his little preparation. I'm going to be doing a method. Mine is going to be dry rub. Case is going to do a wet method.
Yep. Alright, so right now I'm going to be making my marinade for my ribeye steak. You need 1/4 cup of olive oil, 1/4 cup of vinegar, 1/4 of soy sauce, and 1/4 of Worcestershire sauce. And then I'm going to need a teaspoon of mustard. Okay, so now you have to get another 2 teaspoons of garlic.
Fresh garlic pressed. Doesn't get any better than that. One thing we know about cooking in general is that, especially with proteins, fresh garlic is all the difference in the world. As far as flavor goes, the fresh press is certainly a way to go about it. Then they have the processed stuff that's already on the market, which is garlic and water versus garlic and oil. The problem with garlic or anything that is preserved in oil is that oil can create an anaerobic environment for bacteria to grow. So as long as you don't contaminate the garlic with anything else, or the oil with like a dirty spoon or anything like that, it'll remain safe. But water is a safe bet.
So now I'm going to have to get some salt and pepper in here. This all together.
Looks good. And that is a liquid marinade.
So I'm dipping my steak into the marinade. And for a normal marinade, you should have it for at least a couple hours, but for the longest, you should have it in for about 24 hours, about 1 day, and then you keep it in there, let it soak in all of the marinade. So I'm gonna let this sit for about A decent, maybe 24 hours I can. 24 hours? Yeah.
Perfect.
So let that go.
And also one thing to say about the marinating time, obviously the thicker the steak, the longer it would take for the marinade to get through. Just want you to be aware of that. Marinade, especially a wet marinade such as this, is great for tougher cuts of meat. This ribeye really is a very great cut of meat, so it's tender, but the tougher cuts of meat with a marinade will help break down that tough muscle fiber, so you can get a good eating steak from a tougher cut of meat, which the tougher cuts of meat, which actually would be less money. So, all right. So what Casey had just shown you, he showed you a wet method of marinade. I'm going to just do a dry rub, which this can be anything. It can be simple as salt and pepper. Maybe a little bit of granulated onion or whatever spice or herb that you find palate pleasing for you. Now, for me, there's some classics. There are some basic rules of thumb. Obviously, salt and pepper are probably the biggest, but you can expand on that in going to different regional differences. So, for instance, regional differences. Italy, in that area, you might find a dry rub that would have fennel in it. Okay, a lot of people don't prefer that anise flavor, but it is a great undertone for steaks. It can definitely stimulate the palate a little bit in a way that you wouldn't know, especially for a piece of meat. Come on, Case. Come on. So basic on a dry is it doesn't need a whole lot of time. I'm just going to basically season the meat on each side. Now my dry rub, what I put together here is basically a little kosher salt, black pepper. I use in here is also rosemary, which I find is pleasing for beef and lamb. This is all stuff we've been aware of culinarily for many, many years. So our whole point of our video is to have fun with food. Experiment with it. If you're not sure that you like something, try a little bit. So this is all I'm doing is basically just seasoning it. Also in here, I make my own blackening spice, so I got a little blackening in there because I like that on my steaks and my rubs. So it adds a little other dimension, a little bit of heat, but not too much, because I'm not blackening it. Now, if I was going to blacken it, that would be a different cooking method altogether. I'm going to grill these steaks.
I'm going to grill my steak as
Case is going to grill his too. So we'll see the two differences in the flavor profiles. Again, what I'm using here is a New York strip steak. This is also, when going back to quality, this is certified Angus beef. Used to be big years ago. Just a quick snippet on the CAB. Years ago when I first started, certified Angus beef was big. And the fact that it was 80% black Angus was that now they've changed it to where there can be red Angus and other things that change. Now the reason for the Angus beef, a lot of people don't know this, is that Angus, the bovine itself, the species of cattle, is it actually marbles younger on the hoof. So it gives that tenderness steak more flavor at a younger age. Great for the consumer, obviously, but really great for the cattleman because they can get it to market much faster, and it's a better quality. But since then, and now I won't go into the age, but that was many, many years ago, and the system has changed drastically. However, CAB is still a good buy if that's in your budget. So that's it. What I've basically done here, as you can see, basically just rubbed it on both sides. It's light, simple. It doesn't take any time. Now, it can go right to grill. Or if you want to pan fry these, obviously that's another method. Pan fry certainly can be done where you can grill inside on the stovetop. We're just summertime, so nothing better than a grilled steak. So we'll be going outside to grill steaks.
So right now we're going to be doing my side dish for my steak. mushrooms. Bell peppers and my onions. I know it's a lot, but
It's for 3 people.
then we'll be back in a little bit until it's like a little bit done. So now I'm going to season my vegetables.
A little salt and pepper.
Yep, salt and pepper.
What do you got? Good job. Good. All right.
Add a bit of oil.
So what you're going to notice as your vegetables, as the heat goes through, the transfer that's going to take place, and you season it. So salt pulls moisture from anything. That's where when I dry rub the steaks, they really don't need to sit, because what's going to happen is the salt will actually start to pull the moisture from the protein itself. Salt, adding it to anything as far as the seasoning goes, and then you incorporate the heat. You're going to start seeing the moisture pull out of the pan naturally, so you really don't need to add any more liquid or anything to your saute here. Okay. What I'm doing now is a side dish and just a classic accompaniment to steak topper, and I'm just doing some fried onion straws. So basically what I've done is made a little bit of seasoned buttermilk, seasoned flour, and I'm just shaking off the excess flour, and then I'm going to go right into some hot oil. Step back a little bit. There you go. So that they'll fry up nicely and nice and crisp. Crisp is a nice accompaniment to the flavor when you're eating the steak. So you've got something tender and soft and something crisp and crunchy.
Alright, so right before we start grilling the steak, we have to you don't want to be grilling something that's cold heat. So we have it about a little bit over 600 degrees, and you want to have a good sear to it, and then that means that it's hotter. So,
Remember, it's going to be flat.
on.
Go ahead and get your other one. Get yours. Drain it a little bit. All right. Got it. I'm going to take these inside. You have those, okay?
Letting those cook. And then
Now, depending on the thickness of the protein and what you're grilling, determines the temperature or the length of time that you're going to be doing it. The temperature is the other thing. So if you want a medium rare steak, obviously you stick more to the 4 to 5 minutes per side on, and that's about a half-inch thick steak. The thinner, obviously less time. If you want a well-done steak, it's going to take more time. That'll be about 12 to 14 minutes total cooking time.
perfect.
All right. Now let's see the steaks. Perfect.
Okay, back at the grill. Now it's my turn. Case had his turn with his wet marinade. I'm doing the dry rub on the steaks. You can see what I meant about the salt, how it's pulled the moisture from the meat. So they're ready to grill. And on here, in my method, Casey just went with a straight grill, gas heat, fire. I added a little bit of mesquite wood chips to add a flavor profile that is different than Casey's. So here they go. Again, that sear, that temperature is the key to any protein you cook. Actually, you can do the same thing with salmon. If your grill's not hot enough, the food, the muscle's just going to stick to it. You won't get those good grill marks, and most importantly, it will not sear in the juices that are important to everything we cook. So you don't want anything dry and tough and chewy. So you need moisture. Temperature-wise, as far as the, I'll be taking my steaks a little bit less than what Casey took his. He took his from a medium rare to almost a medium. We have to keep in mind anything that we cook, whether it's coming out of the oven or coming off the grill, is still going to have the carryover cooking. So it's important when you're doing anything to have fun. The fun is knowing what you're doing. So knowing what you're doing, you know if you take it off and it's at 130 degrees, which would take you to medium rare to a medium, it's going to go anywhere from 5 to 10 degrees above that, depending on the cooking temperature. So you'll have that carryover. So remember, you always want to pull it off before it's done, and then let the time and the juices distribute before you cut it. And you can see in my dry rub, I got a little bit of rosemary in there because it lends itself well with the flavor of beef. Other things, it's like going back to pre-bought seasonings, like the Montreal steak seasoning. You'll notice in there they're using a coarse ground salt, pepper. Everything is coarse on that. With the Montreal, some of the things that a lot of people don't know that's in there and how that flavor profile comes together is there is actually crushed dill seed in there, which is also a contributing factor in great flavor for beef and or chicken. And then the other things are in there, like they've got the dehydrated garlic, dehydrated onion in their blend. That's all it is. You are capable of making your own whatever. Like this rub that I use has got a little bit of blackening spice in it. I like a little bit of kick to my steak. Casey's wet method, the difference there is that in that marinating process, it's penetrating. It's penetrating the muscle fiber. So he used like a soy and a Worcestershire base, so it's going to have that tangy, salty, goes great with beef. And you can see the score marks on the steak. This is when you know your grill is hot. When you can see those marks, you know it's seared it in. It's causing that protein to shrink up real quick on the outside, and just let those juices marinate on the inside.
So right now we're gonna have to do my dishes, and I'm gonna have to start cooking my steak up.
Use the fork to hold.
So how many pieces are going to be on each plate?
How many pieces on each plate?
Yes.
I'm just cutting mine up first.
And then Papa's going to do the same.
Correct.
So what they're going to be doing is they're going to be putting their steaks on the pieces of their steak on the 3 dishes, and they're going to be adding their other stuff. Along with Casey's, this is Casey, this is for Papa D. And I think this is also him.
Oh, that's nice.
Oh, that's beautiful. You did a great job.
Oh, that is amazing.
Great job. I'm going to go ahead and heat your veg now, though, okay?
Got it. Got that one. I'm gonna get my other steak and I'm gonna start cutting that one up.
Well, now on a taste, how much are we putting on each plate? You need to decide that.
And
2 pieces per, so that they can taste.
I'll do like 3 pieces.
I think we can probably go along with 3 pieces per dish.
Yeah, the protein is the prize part of the plate. When you add in your oil and your fat, fat, when you add oil to a pan and you're cooking or sauteing, that is the sponge. Because anything you add to the oil or the fat, whatever, whether it's butter or oil, it's going to absorb the flavor. So then if you add garlic and shallots after you put your oil in there and you get that hot, or in your herbs, and then you add your ingredients, which would be your peppers and onions, you toss that up in there, and now that flavor from the fat is all over everything, and it just helps cook in. So the purpose of oil is only as to help keep things from not sticking, number one, but also number two, it's
Are you
to
doing your mushrooms?
help enter the flavor. No, I'm not going to do those. So this one here, you're pretty much...
So now I'm gonna keep on plating my dishes. Let me get my vegetables. They shrunk.
That's the moisture being released from them. That's why everything you cook is going to shrink.
Here, I'll bring it over to the table.
So
Keep on, no.
I know. Dish number 2.
My steaks are getting cold.
yes, we got to get that.
Heat it in the oven once. Just to
You
get
want to put a
it.
little bit more in? All right. All right. Number 3. Oh. Mm. I want a blind taste test.
Dude, no.
All right.
3, 3, 3.
All right, now it's Papa D's turn. See how he cuts it at an angle? Pretty nice.
The reason for that, when you're in this business,
You're gonna wait, making.
is it actually makes the dish bigger.
Does it really?
Absolutely. Look at the look. You saw how, look at this. I'll put this on a plate, and I'll put this on a plate.
Oh yeah, totally.
Fun with food!
Fun with food.
Okay. Okay,
So now,
and I'm just going to use your sides too. Is that okay, guys?
Yeah.
So they got the same vegetables. This way they won't be able to tell the difference. The only one who knows
me.
is the camera.
And me.
Here we are, fun with food. Let the judging begin.
All right, so we have the 3 judges here ready to judge the dishes. All right, first dish, go ahead.
Oh, we're tasting all at the same time. Then we go 1, 2, 3.
Yeah, and then I'll let you know when we go to the second dish. This goes with the first dish. This goes with the second dish. So if you want any of this to go with the steak or whatever, you can, by all means, go ahead. All right, you can say any comments, anything for the first dish, and then you can do the second dish, and then and then we'll go to the professional judging after both dishes are being tasted. All right,
All right.
go ahead. Comments, anything?
Very good.
All right, next dish. So, do you have any comments on the first steak, second steak?
The first steak.
Yes, the first steak.
Okay, so we're talking about this one.
Okay.
Anything? It was good. I mean, they were both good steaks. Obviously, similar sides.
Good time.
Cooked well. This steak seems a little bit harder. I don't know if it was the cut or the style of steak, but it was very tasty. Both were the first one. Very tasty.
Okay, so second steak. So, okay, yeah.
I really liked, for the first steak, I liked the sauce. It was just a little sweet for my taste. I don't know what sweetness.
The first steak was?
The first steak with the
Sauce.
the sauce. It was just sweeter than I would have liked it. I liked the flavor, but it was just a little too sweet for me.
I think the green sauce topped off the second one to put it to the finish there.
You made a decision. What one you all agree with? is
Number
better?
2.
Everybody, does everybody agree?
I think I would agree with number 2.
I'll vote for number 1.
Okay.
I'll vote for
Alright.
number 1.
Alright.
But they were, I mean, both very good. There's nothing to, you know, I have nothing negative to say about either one.
You can leave your one.
Um,
Alright. Decision has been made.
do you stop it?
No, I'm just gonna cut it from there.
I gotta finish it off.
Right.
I'm thinking it is definitely the way it was cut.
You know what I mean?
That
And
made
that's
the
where, because it was.
Hold that when he cuts in.
It's not
What am I
bad. It
holding?
doesn't
Give me
taste
salt.
bad at all. It kind of
Huh?
seems like a
He is
harder
not very
piece. But again, is it?
But their vegetables tasted, I wonder if they're exactly the same.
Contestants may.
Dad,
Enter.
you're in charge.
Here, you need to cut. I'm with you. I hear.
You're right.
Good, let's open the doors and try to get some cold air in here.
Be careful
So
with that.
question, were the vegetables the same on both plates?
Correct.
Yes.
Okay.
These
Good.
are kind of confusing.
And I didn't do two
There you
different.
go.
Okay, so
Right. Okay.
More vegetables, more vegetables, more vegetables.
So you two are
I
there.
say something to the camera.
And you- okay, hold on.
Any comments for the other steaks in front of them?
But in front of them.
Yeah, so you can just say the comments again.
Steak 1, steak 2. How's it work? Who's the winner?
You got
Alright, well, say the comments.
two
first.
votes for number 2 and 1 vote for number 1.
Right. I voted for number 1. They voted for number 2. But they were good. They were both really, really good.
No problem.
Did you guys do the sauces?
Yeah.
We did,
Okay.
we did, and the sauce for number 1 was more to my liking as far as the sauce goes, except for the fact that it was too sweet. I don't know what was added to make it
Sure,
so
sure.
But number 2, the contrast was really, really nice. A nice mixture there.
Totally
I enjoyed that. And we're not sure with the steaks. We all agreed that the steak number 1 was a little tougher than steak number 2. And it might have been by the way it was cut, because we noticed the difference between the two of them.
The difference in the two is I don't know on steak number 1 where you guys bought it, and did it just say steak, or did it say USDA choice? We talked a little bit in the quality of the difference in the meats and the marbling. So for the ribeye, you could see that there wasn't much marbling in there. For that cut of meat, technically it's a fattier piece of meat. That's why, that's why they use it for prime rib. It just keeps it moist and juicy, and the fat is great.
Which one was the ribeye? Number 2?
Number 1.
Number 1 was a ribeye.
Yeah. And the number 2 was a New York strip, which was certified Angus beef, USDA choice. So I wanted to do that in the camera so people who are watching it would know the difference. And that's interesting that you guys noticed the difference in one that was tougher, and that is a lot has to do with the quality of the steak.
To begin with, so no matter what you do with it,
Sure.
because of the quality.
And when
that
you see the
make it.
video of the steak as it was raw, and I pointed out the marbling in the 2, you'll see in the ribeye there was hardly, other than it traditionally has the big fat vein that runs through it anyway, but in the muscle itself there was no marbling whatsoever. 0. And on the New York strip you could see that veins of fat, little veins of fat going through it, and that's the difference in the USDA grading. So, fat is good.
Alright, so this is the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave any comments down below on what you guys want us to do next time, or any other, if you have any questions on what we did. And again, please leave any comments on recommendations on what we should do in the future.
Again, we want to thank you all for watching Fun with Food, and to know that we're all blessed to be able to do things, and we just want everybody to have fun and know that no matter, today was a different event where we had the family judging, you all have fun with it too, and peace be with you all.
Alright then. Thank you guys.
See ya.
Judge number one's got it down.
Judge number one says, I might need another plate. Yeah, for both of these, it really goes sense.
Yeah, we got.
One.
Number 1. There we go.